Hey everybody, welcome back to my series on learning Maya for beginners. Today we wanted to take a real quick look at inserting edge loops so you can get additional geometry to start changing up objects and models to get better results. So I'm going to just start with a cylinder, just a regular old cylinder here. Tip this over. So we looked at our polycylinder inputs or inputs in general, how you can change these around to get more edges, fewer edges, and this is a great way to start out, of course. A lot of times when I'm using a cylinder, this might be too much. I might bump these way down. You know, maybe you only want to start with a hexagon, whatever's going to be most comfortable for you, for the object that you're actually working on, but I tend to make these a little bit smaller when starting. So I'm going to go up to Mesh Tools and look at this Insert Edge Loop tool. So we looked at the extrusion last time, and I find that this is kind of the next one that really you want to learn. And with those two alone, you can do a lot of modeling. You won't get, perfect results. They won't always be the most efficient results, but they're great. So the way this tool works, you're not going to use it on a face, but you're going to use it on existing edges. And it's going to create a new edge loop perpendicular to whatever edge you click on. So if I click on this edge, for example, I'm clicking and holding right now, you'll see that I get this edge loop. It's kind of giving me the dotted lines telling me an indication of where that is going to be placed. And if I let go, that is where I now have an edge loop. So you'll see this ultimately, if I press Q to exit the tool, gives me some new faces to work with. So before I just had one giant face, and now, if for whatever reason I was going to extrude this and get some detail out of this and extrude a piece out like this, I can do it. So that's kind of the point, and the purpose of this tool is to just give you more control. I'm going to double click this edge. One thing I always want students to understand with this tool, if I just press delete, if I decide I don't want this edge, delete it. You think it's gone, it looks like it's gone, but when I'm hovering over these other edges, you'll see that something is still there. This should just be one edge now. And if I go to my vertex mode, I actually can still see that there are these weird floating vertices that should not exist. You should never just have a vertice connected to one edge. So I'm going to undo, because there's kind of a unique way to make sure to delete an edge, which is a little odd. I'm not sure that I even fully understand why Maya behaves this way, why you would ever want those floating vertices left behind. But the methods, you can either hold Shift and hold right click and go to delete edge, or you can hold Control and then press delete. That way you'll see now that I'm in edge mode, I don't have any of those left behind. Just so you're aware, if ever you're holding Shift and hold right click, this is just kind of a shortcut menu for whatever it thinks you might be doing next. So now that I have an edge selected, I've got some options for what I could be doing to these edges. If I were to go to object mode and hold Shift and right click, now we have some different options. So this is just a quick way to access a lot of the tools if you get familiar with it, and can make your workflow increase. Now, another thing that's great to do with the Insert Edge Loop tool, let's go back to it. So Mesh Tools, Insert Edge Loop. If I double click on the tool settings, I can change this up so that I can get some different results. Right now it's checked for relative distance from edge, which means I can slide it around and drop it off wherever I want it. If I switch this over to multiple edge loops, I could get 2 at a time or more. And sometimes what I like to do is actually switch this back to 1, because what this will do is when I select an edge, see how I'm sliding around? I've still got it clicked. Normally I could slide this around. It doesn't let me. So it's actually just going to place this directly in the center. So that's a convenient way to get something directly centered between two other edges if you want to. So I'm going to undo that and switch this to 2 just to show off what that will do. You'll see these now are equidistant from each other and from the other edges that kind of surrounded this face. And what's nice about putting two in a time is it can give me some control to kind of get symmetry out of an object because they're equidistant. So if I were to press W, for example, I could move both of these around, but a lot of times what's nice is to press R, because now you can scale these further apart or closer together. So maybe you did want this to just be, you know, a detail right here in the middle. Maybe we're gonna go back to face mode. I'll select one, hold shift, double click to get the whole ring. And maybe we'll do an extrusion out of this. Or at least we think we're doing an extrusion. Sometimes I don't press my keyboard hard enough, apparently. So now if I were to grab this, I could extend this out. You know, now we got this kind of detail. I could have pushed this in, I get this kind of detail. So with these two tools kind of combined, you can actually do a lot of things. And sometimes you'll get to the point where, let's just delete these, go back to my insert edge loop. You might actually put in a bunch. Maybe you put 8 edge loops in at the same time so that you can have, hello, there we go. So that you can have a lot of different detail. Maybe you select every other face and extrude those inward or something like that. It just gives you a way to get more detail into an object by having more edges and vertices. So a lot of times if I change a tool, I like to hit reset tool before I exit this and go on to something else, just because in its reset form, that's generally what I'm most used to, and that's usually what I'm trying to do. So just a little tip there. Now, a couple things to note. If I try to put an edge loop, say around here, and I click this, you're gonna see it's not actually gonna work. I just get this green dot. The reason for this is the insert edge loop tool doesn't work with triangles. So you'll see that I just have 3 sides to this face. So it doesn't know what to do because it's kind of looking for opposite edges, and it doesn't really know what my opposite edge is. If the opposite of this is over here, or if the opposite of this is over here. So it's not going to give me a good result. And the same thing happens if I click on this. You'll see it's able to create a line from one side to the other, but once it goes into the triangle, it just can't figure it out. So if you're having issues like that where you think that the edge loop is incomplete, if it's not making it all the way around an object, in most situations, that is really all that is happening. So that's all I wanted to go over. Hopefully a quicker video on edge loops. We'll start showing how these tools can be used together to actually model some stuff, but it's important to understand the features of each tool and what they can accomplish. So I will see you next time.